Well, we covered it with Vince Vaughn. He was one of the first to speak out about it. Now we have a producer and director saying the exact same thing as time passes.
Whoa!
So, that producer and director that I'm talking about is one David Gordon Green. And he's basically saying that he sees a pathway back for comedies in the giant theaters, back to the big screen. Now, he recently just had a release. It's called Nutcrackers, starring Ben Stiller, and it just premiered another one of those Christmas movies, real family oriented and everything like that, with a little bit of snafu going on with it. It was snapped up by Hulu after it premiered at the Toronto Film Festival. It's a little bit of a dramedy, it's keeping the family involved, a nice little holiday picture. If you don't know David Gordon Green, this is what he looks like now. Also, you might know him from some things that you might love or hate him from. As far as horror goes, his most notable releases are the Halloween Kills, those remake ones. I don't look on those too fondly. However, some of the comedy stuff, he has produced a lot of Danny McBride things, and also produced and directed a lot of Eastbound and Down, which I think is such a hilarious show. Yes, that was on HBO, and it was extremely vulgar and everything and over the top, but it was absolutely hilarious. So he's done a lot of stuff with Danny McBride. But the thing that he really wants to say with this is that he wants to take like the Blumhouse approach. Now, if you don't know what the Blumhouse approach is, it's basically give a whole lot of projects a small budget, especially in something like horror, which doesn't cost that much to make. Release it in theaters, do the marketing for it. It's not going to cost you very much. So your bottom end is actually very small. But because they are so accessible and they interact, like the audience is interacting with them, even through word of mouth and kids going to see it together, because a lot of the times those things are like PG-13. And so there's not the extra age restriction to go see it. They get a lot more butts in the seats. They get people talking about it. They love the jump scares and everything like that, or they love like the goofy, gimmicky laughs. And so they don't make as much money as these blockbusters, but because the production budget was so daggum small, it actually ends up compiling on itself, like putting a little nest egg away. For those of you who know anything about savings and just saving a little bit from each paycheck, that eventually turns into a giant boulder. Now, as this article does say, as the industry continues to rebuild, following COVID and last year's double strikes, those strikes did absolutely nothing except, never mind, we're not going to go into that on this one. David Gordon Green is optimistic about the future, seeing the potential for a renaissance for feature comedies and film in general. Yes, there definitely could be that, but it's an outcome that will only come with some serious soul searching amongst filmmakers and executives. It's the executives; those are the ones that are holding everything back because they're so used to seeing big ass budgets, big ass returns. They're not looking at the smaller picture anymore. The smaller picture actually ends up making the bigger picture if you actually think about it. There's an old little axiom, a little saying that I heard from my grandpa and actually from my dad too. So it was like two different families, and the men told me this when I was growing up. It's like, take care of the nickels and the pennies because the dollars take care of themselves. Those little things add up. He also says there's an interest in real innovation that would involve taking a close look at everything from star salaries to ticket prices and movie theater seating. Yes, there's actually someone he's been in the industry quite a long time. He's done quite a few different things, and he seems like he at least is rubbing elbows with the right people, but has a genuine passion for the artistry. So it seems like he really cares, and he also looks young enough to still actually care about this and not just be resting on his laurels, of which he doesn't really have that many, because the things that he has done, in my own estimation, in my own opinion, that were successful are long gone, and a lot of people have forgotten about them, and or they're not making royalties on them anymore. But that is just speculation. So yes, Going back to real innovation involving and taking a closer look at everything from star salaries, that's one of the biggest things. Hollywood production companies, over the last 5 to 10 years, it's like they don't want to make anything that doesn't have an A-list star in it. The thing is, there are very few actual A-list stars anymore. There's people you see everywhere. They get heaps of money, but they don't draw people to the theaters. The characters are the ones that draw people to the theaters for the most part, with a few exceptions. Daniel Day-Lewis will draw people to see the film, whether or not it's a blockbuster. He tends not to do those because he's more after the art. But like everyone's going to go see a Daniel Day-Lewis movie. Most people are going to go flock for a Tom Cruise movie. So there are very few people who actually get butts in seats. Yet they try to bank on this stuff. They do this with animated movies as well. There are very few voice actors that are getting jobs anymore outside of TV because all of the big budget animated movies now have actors, Hollywood actors. And they're just playing a role. They're just using their own voice. They're not even voice acting. You could tell exactly who it is just by hearing them. And that is what is kind of killing that industry as well. Just ask people like John DiMaggio and Billy West. But he goes on further from that, star salaries to ticket prices in movie theater seating. Yes, you obviously want to be able to find a way, especially with a lower budget movie and something that's a little bit more, maybe not family friendly, but something that's more accessible. You want it to be more accessible to the customer's wallet. And there are ways that Hollywood could do this. There are definite ways that theaters could do this, but it's not really in one single person's hand. But it can be worked around. Now, Deadline has pretty much a transcript of this entire interview here, but here's the part that I really want to focus on because this is where they straight up ask him, how do you view the future of comedy where filmmaking is concerned? And what do you think has caused it to wane in the theatrical space? Do you think it can make a comeback? Now, he talks about pendulum swinging, which is true to an extent. It's like, so we're here, we're there, and he thinks it's coming back around. So the same thing that Vince Vaughn was saying. It's like that pendulum's going to swing back around. It is a common euphemism, a common phrase. And it also makes sense in a lot of ways. He says there was a couple things that he would note on it. He said one is, I think comedy, like horror, doesn't need a big movie stars. It needs funny people. Thank you. Who the F knew who Jonah Hill was before Superbad? Maybe accepted with Justin Long, but he was just the ask me about my wiener guy. You didn't really see him in much. Who was Jack Black before School of Rock? Saving Silverman, Orange County. He was basically a nobody for all intents and purposes, yet the role that he played that got people's attention. So yes, you just need funny people. This also washes out the dregs of old Hollywood. If you can get new people in that actually have some spice and some fervor and can get people to laugh, get people to talk about them, that's how you get more stars in. That's how you help the industry stay alive and save it from its deathbed, which is just completely on, in my opinion. And he says, sorry, that was my own diatribe. I don't think it needs big action set pieces. It needs funny concept, funny set pieces. The backlash comes from a cultural standpoint, but also comes in an economic standpoint of these very expensive movies that cost too much money and they don't make it back. Yes, that's exactly what it is. These tentpole movies, they end up becoming pup tents at best and whiskey dicks at worst. They can't hold anything up. They definitely can't hold up a studio, especially when you go through all these reshoots, when you're going through massive, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars of just advertising campaigns. They can't hold a candle to it because of the numbers at the box office. Not only domestic, but foreign, where you get 25% of the take. At least it's around 50-50 here, but you have so much to cover up for. And people just aren't going to the movies that much anymore. So, your best bet is Give some comedy movie, like a great comedy movie with really funny things, something that's relatable, but also really great jokes and jokes that aren't just topical at the time. Learn to be funny again, which means let people speak freely again as well, to go on my little high horse. Give them about $20 million, give them about $15 million to promote it, release it in theaters, see what happens. That's what Blumhouse has been doing for a long time, and they're like freaking massive. They ended up like producing Whiplash, which won like Best Picture of the Year. That was kind of, you know, out of their normal wheelhouse, but yes, Blumhouse has done very well for themselves because of this marketing model. Now, David Gordon Green knows this, and he wants to pass that information along. So, what do you guys think about it? I think um, it's not too little, too late. I think they should have been doing this for a long time, and I think a lot of you will agree with me on that. But if you do disagree, leave your comments down below. We will see you on Wednesday evening, Late and Gay with the GCA. Our live stream happens at 8:30 Eastern every single Wednesday, off the hip with Alec Baldwin's Finger on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern. You could find us over there. Until then, or until the next video, y'all have a good one.